All right, welcome everyone. I'm really excited about what we have up next for you because my colleague and my friend Matt Price is here from Giving Tuesday. As folks are joining, please say hello in the chat. We'd love to know where you are joining from. And I'm going to ask you a question. Have you done AI learning alongside your colleagues at your organization? Share a little bit about that in the chat. Okay, so Giving Tuesday, that is the organization that I work for and Matt does as well. If you aren't familiar, Giving Tuesday is a movement that unleashes the power of radical generosity around the world. At Giving Tuesday, we reimagine a world built upon shared humanity and generosity. We have a global network that collaborates year-round, not just on Giving Tuesday, to inspire generosity around the world with a common mission to build a world where generosity is part of everyday life. Matt is here from our Giving Tuesday Data Commons, where we both work. We provide the social sector with what the commercial sector has long benefited from: big data to empower organizations to understand giving behaviors, identify trends, and drive impactful change in partnership with a global network. We create and share data sets. We curate resource libraries. We facilitate research collaborations. And we analyze generosity and resource mobilization, and we publish our findings to inform practice. So encourage you to access our resources and our research at givingtuesday.org. All right, we aren't here just to learn about Giving Tuesday the day. We are here to talk about what Giving Tuesday has learned from our own AI implementation and learning inside of our organization for our colleagues with Matt. Matt Price directs the product and knowledge management teams at Giving Tuesday Data Commons. He builds tools and systems to help people find and understand the information that they need. He is also a historian of science who has spent several decades teaching history, philosophy, and bicycle mechanics, and he spends much of his free time immersed in water. I continue to learn from Matt on a daily basis, and I'm very grateful for it. And with that, I am turning it over to Matt to lead us through our session.
Thank you, Kelsey, for that very generous intro. I'm noticing some spinning. Everybody's good? You can hear me and see my screen. Is that good? Is that true? Yes, great. So I'm here today to talk about something we did at Giving Tuesday over the summer, or the kind of long summer, something we call our AI Learning Circle. As I think many of you know, for almost 3 years, Giving Tuesday has been at the forefront of thinking about how AI is going to impact the nonprofit sector, and we have tried hard to, along with other people, many other people here at this event, to prepare the sector for the changes that are coming. I think everyone probably remembers the release of ChatGPT and GPT 3.5 in fall 2022. Two things were, I think, immediately clear. First, that this new large language model was incredibly powerful, transformatively powerful. And on the other hand, that the hype machine swinging into action was maybe even more powerful than this new technology was. So on the one hand, change was definitely coming. And on the other, it was going to be hard to distinguish snake oil from reality. And of course, it's also the case that AI comes not just with gifts, but also with distinct downsides. I just listened to a terrific session on AI and the environment. And I think many people in this room are likely aware of the kinds of effects that that generative AI are having on fossil fuel emissions and also on water consumption. And I would also add to that AI is contributing to the concentration of wealth and power that is currently making every serious problem that faces our planet even harder to solve than it was 5 years ago. But keeping ourselves pure is not going to solve those problems. So like many other people at the conference, what we wanted most was for our sector to be ready for the challenges that were coming. And that's why we built out the AI Readiness Survey last year and why we created the AI Working Group that Kelsey chairs. Um, uh, and why we thought about how we should use AI ourselves. Um, some things that we learned from taking a survey last year are that many people working in our sector feel afraid of AI and afraid even to try it. That in order to make trained decisions, they need training, and that they have lots of questions about whether and how to use generative AI. When you combine this with the generalized burnout that is endemic in the nonprofit sector, the sense of overwhelm that I think we're all familiar with, we know that it is going to take creativity and persistence to help nonprofit staff use generative AI and use it well. And not everyone's going to use it in the same ways or to the same extent. Adoption should come where it's appropriate, where it brings real benefits, and it needs to meet people where they are. So we thought for a long time about this problem, and it took us a while to try to figure out a solution. And finally, we decided we should experiment on ourselves. Not, as I say here, necessarily recommended in every circumstance. Our approach was to establish an informal learning circle that would be open to all staff. What did this look like? First, it was optional. All the participants were there by choice. Everyone was welcome, and we did what we could to meet people where they were. Second, it was led by experts, by our knowledge management team that I chair. All of us are early adopters, and all of us are experienced teachers of technology. And we made the experience as low lift as we could. We tried to frame it not as extra work that people had to do, but extra slack, a little bit of an excuse to experiment, even if it wasn't always the most efficient way to get about finishing your assignments. So we made the homework, such as it was, relatively easy, and we did what we could to give people the freedom to experiment. We had a very simple format that we shared throughout the summer in our monthly sessions, of which there were 5. We started with a share back of recent experience, and then we did a demo of some new tool or technique, and then an intro to a homework assignment and a quick exercise to get started. And we try to follow these principles, use the tools that are available to the organization, impress upon people that learning is effort. So in order to learn, you have to make an effort. It doesn't have to be unpleasant, but it does require you to invest yourself in the project of learning. And that failure is part of the process. So really try to say, it may not work for you to use AI on the first try. It may not work on the second try. What you want to learn is whether or not AI can help you with a specific kind of task. So what has this looked like over the past 5 months? We actually started with a launch from Tim Lockey, who has, I think, been a big presence at this conference. So many of you may have seen him today, who really helped to set the vision, to establish ground rules, to build in a sense of like safety around AI, psychological safety, and to give the sense of community. And I really want to give a shout out to Tim for all his expertise. And this is a service that he offers to others as well. You may be interested in taking advantage of it. So we started with this very general introduction, and then we delved as quickly and as deeply as we could into the tools that were immediately available to us. Giving Tuesday, just by chance or early decision, uses Google Workspace. Google Workspace has Gemini built into it. So we began with Gemini. So our next session was just a general introduction to Gemini, a little bit deeper than what Tim had described. Really taking your first steps, learning basic techniques of prompting, trying to just understand what it could do, explore a variety of different use cases, and help people work through their initial hesitation. I want to say, not asking people to give up any ethical concerns they may have about AI, but to overcome any fears that they might have about their own interaction with these tools. And here's an image showing the beginning of the journey, I guess, is what I intended to say here. And from the initial introduction to Gemini, we moved into tools that Google makes available. So one of the most interesting tools that Google has is this thing called Notebook LM. Many of you may have seen it. It sets up an environment that allows you to do document synthesis, and then it has this gimmicky podcasting feature. And we tried to play around understanding where it brings value to people in their actual work, and where maybe it's just gimmicks. And I think we found there are some really interesting use cases, which I'm happy to discuss later. I see there's a question about, is there anyone? Oh no, that's from Kelsey, never mind. And then we moved on from Notebook LM to the other customizable feature that Google Gemini offers, which is called GEMS. Those of you who use ChatGPT more extensively will probably be familiar with custom GPTs. If you use Claude, you may be familiar with Claude projects. Gemini GEMS are very similar environments that allow you to add context and specificity to the LLM's environment and customize the experience of people who come to that gem or custom GPT or project in order to direct the output of the LLM. And, so again, we encourage people to try to build specialized tools for their own work, tailored to specific needs, and to turn those into reusable workflows to see if, in fact, it really was possible right now in summer 2025 to hand off some parts of your work to an AI in a reliable manner. And sometimes people had success, and sometimes people tried things that really didn't work. And I can talk a little more about what was and wasn't successful. And finally, just last month, we looked into these new modes that are emerging in across the whole ecosystem of AI tools right now: deep research modes and learning modes, which all of the major American providers anyway now allow. We use deep research on my team quite extensively for especially producing literature reviews and for doing some fact checking of ideas that people have. And we have just started to explore the learning modes that all of these tools give us as a skills acquisition tool, as a way to help people help themselves to learn. we are not done with this project. So we've been going for 5 months. That was our kind of initial intention, was to keep ourselves moving for that length of time. But what we found is that as people get further into AI, they have more questions that they want to explore. So we're continuing. And we're now moving into kind of more um, uh, uh, complex terrain uh, around agents. And then I want to also briefly touch on the question of efficiency, partly because of what I heard in the last session. So in particular, we're beginning to work with MCP, the Model Context Protocol, which allows AI agents to interface with external tools. So for us, that means Google Workspace, that means Airtable, and to some extent, that means local file systems if that's done in a controlled and careful way. And that integration with the workspace has turned out to be extremely powerful. And of course, there are issues that we can talk about more if you like. But here we begin to see how AI can take over small parts of your workflow and release your mind from the clutter of day-to-day tasks. Also, for the nerds in our little group, we're exploring using the command line interface. In this case, we're mostly using Claude, and thinking about what kinds of benefits that can bring, especially for us to writing code, which is something that happens at the Data Commons. And something that I also have been just sort of starting to think about myself is trying to get a handle on how we might improve the efficiency of our AI use. It is very difficult when you're like a moderately competent user to resist the urge to use the most complicated thing. And as they were saying just moments ago in the environment session, this is really where the negative externalities of AI come into play, where the problems that AI brings to the environment become really, really serious. So if we can restrict ourselves to less complex models in the places where only less complex models are relevant or are important, then we really should do that. And so we have, on the one hand, a kind of possible rosy picture of a future where custom AI agents can do all kinds of amazing things for us. And there's also a possible future which is much darker, where AI agents become the executors of an almost apocalyptic environmental scenario. So this learning that we're doing is not irrelevant to the direction that our society as a whole is going to take. By becoming competent with these tools, we become able to make informed decisions as citizens, in addition to as workers at our agencies. So what we did, we let staff lead the conversation as much as we could. We recognized distinct needs across teams and between different individuals. We focused especially on approaches, not just on solutions. And I think that's really important. Everything is changing so fast that specific solutions have a very short lifespan. But the approaches that we learn, the approach of investigation, uh, deep inquiry uh, will, I think, continue to bear fruit. What we learned is that different teams have unique capacities and challenges, and teaching how to iterate, how to continue working hard with the AI tool definitely beats out specific templates every time. And finally, that building confidence matters probably more than anything else. Have a couple more slides. Um, yeah, some key insights are that empowerment is more important than prescription. That having different teams in the room together was actually really useful because people could see how um, other functions were using the tools and learn from them. Um, that a feeling of safety, that it was okay to go down the wrong path and have to turn around and maybe take longer doing a task than you would without AI, that was acceptable, um, was really important, and that having practical application and community building were also relevant. I am going over time, and these things is really repetitive, I think. Let me just say a couple more things. That AI is not just one thing. There's many, many functions that come under that umbrella, and it's changing very fast. We all know that. So it's not possible to learn to the moment, because by the time you've learned something, it's already changed. However, learning together reduces fear, and every organization can start where they are. It's a long road ahead of us. I would love to hear from others. I know we have just a couple of minutes. Um, whether you are interested in starting some kind of AI learning project at your organization. Glenda, yes, definitely. Uh, and if you are considering it, think who would be the champion? What is the format that would work for your organization? How do you make people feel safe? And I would remember to start with volunteers. Don't make everybody do it. To focus on exploration and to share the journey wherever possible.
Matt, you got some great questions.
Okay, I've only been able to see like the corners of them.
Um, let me maybe start with this great question from Nikki,
Yeah,
which was, did the entire organization take part in it? Was it cross-section? Who facilitated it? And how was work accounted
yeah.
for?
So
Um,
so I would say I championed it, and most of the time I facilitated it. Um, it was open to everyone in the organization, but only people who wanted to were participated. So there's no requirement. Um, and people who took that, who participated in the learning circle, did so with the understanding that they might be a little slow on some of their other work because of it. So, a couple of hours a week, not a huge amount, 10% of your time maybe, was going to be devoted to trying to do things with AI. And it might be the case that you were unsuccessful.
yep,
Yeah.
great. And a follow-up to that, did access to AI tools for staff depend on their participation?
No, we all had access to Gemini, and eventually we got organization-wide access to other tools as well. And I actually wanted to have something like that, but I was persuaded that that was a bad idea.
There's another great question about Gemini Gems, which actually
Yeah,
came up
saw
in the
that.
conversation in the learning circle when we were talking about Gemini Gems. So, when it comes to Gemini Gems, how are you helping all of your team
Yeah,
members have access to the same gem? Which, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. It's also it's a problem we haven't solved either, Scott. Um, and It's a significant issue, totally a significant issue. I imagine soon that will be solved, but, like, if you have like at work, my other job, I have ChatGPT EDU, and that allows custom GPTs to be shared within the university, and that is a great feature. Claude, I believe, does the same thing.
Okay, a couple more, maybe just one more given time. There's been some questions around access to the curriculum, which I don't think we made available here, but do we want to?
Could. It's not super extensive because it's because it's just a bunch of topics and a couple of assignments. But I'd be happy to make that all available for sure.
Great. Okay. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Matt, for your time. It looks like there's like still a few little comments coming through on the chat, so feel free to respond to those, Matt, while I do some follow up here. There is a feedback slide if you want to give feedback to Matt on his session or just any of the sessions that you've been attending. We use that feedback to make the session and the summit experience better. You have seen a couple links pop up on your slide to access resources about Giving Tuesday. I saw some questions about Giving Tuesday the day. I'm sure a lot of you are preparing campaigns for that. You can access the resources that have been popping up on the screen. And also a note to, if you haven't already, take the AI survey that is up on the screen right now. That is the AI fluency survey. And we do not have a lounge after this session, so Matt will not be joining you, but maybe Matt, if you want to share your LinkedIn in the chat, so folks could reach out to you, or your email, and people can join you. And I think with that, we're having trouble with the slide.
Am I supposed to unshare or something?
Perhaps. I think we can still see your slides. There we go. That's just the two of us. Let me get our slides back up so you can know how to access the feedback form and a couple other resources. Sharing my slides. Here we go. Okay, so here is how you can provide feedback. You can scan that. Here is how you can join other lounge sessions that are happening throughout the day. And where do you go next? What is on your schedule? So next up on the Amplify stage, oh, we are on an old slide. Apologies. I think this was the previous sessions, but next up on this stage, we have Supercharged Leadership, How to Embrace AI and Lead What's Next, with Alonda Williams from Big Brothers Big Sisters of Puget Sound. I actually believe the Amplify and Innovation stages, these two things are still happening. So if you wanted to join those late and just pop in, you are welcome to. And just another reminder, bookmark your sessions. We're coming to the end of the day today. So if you want to build your calendar and your schedule for tomorrow, you can start doing that directly in the scheduling option right there, right up on the right-hand corner of your screen. I will be joining Alonda in just a second on this stage, so please join us if you can. Thank you. All right, y'all, I'm back up on screen to tell you that there is, in fact, a lounge happening with Matt directly after this. So I Told you there was not, but there is indeed. So if you want to get into the nitty gritty with Matt on what is, what we learned from the AI learning circle, or you want to ask a more specific questions about the curriculum or how we went about organizing it, you can meet Matt in the lounge. His lounge is called Building AI Readiness. Instructions for how to join those lounges are right there. So you can go to the lounge session, click the table that is the AI readiness table, and join Matt for some moments to discuss how we did our AI learning circles. And like I said, I will be back on the stage in just a moment with Alonda. Thank you.